Hey, what's happening, guys? It's Jamie here. I want to say a very warm welcome to you. Thank you very much for joining me in today's video. For those of you that are tuning in via YouTube, welcome. For those of you that are tuning in via my group, thanks very much for joining me. Feel free to drop a hashtag live if you do jump on the live. And of course, hashtag replay if you end up jumping on the replay. Thank you once again for joining me. And like I say, this is really just a quick video for me. I'm going to go through something that I was discussing with a client of mine earlier. We were talking about the subject of fear and how we as humans tend to let that overpower what we do with our decisions as far as fear is concerned. So I got a very well crafted presentation here. I'm going to present to you guys right now. Hopefully you can see my screen the way that I can. Let's hide that little doofy there. And if I just let my mouse go quiet for a second, that should hopefully disappear. Yes. All right. So the subject of fear is something that I think a lot of us allow to inhibit us from progressing in our businesses. And I'm going to say, dare I say, probably life in general. Now, I'm not saying that fear is something that you ever stop experiencing, because you do. I experience it now, in terms of anxieties based around whether I'm on the right path. Have I got imposter syndrome? Like, is all this real? Is it going to go away tomorrow? What do my friends and family think of me? Really? Still have no idea. There's all that stuff, right? And so I wanted to address a couple of them, and there's actually three that I've sort of boiled it down to. I think are kind of relevant. Of course, there's others, and bearing in mind, I'm no psychological expert, psychologist, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. See, I can't even say the word. This is just based off my own life experience and based off around about 10 minutes of me thinking before I jump on the camera to discuss this with you guys. So anyway, the first one in particular is the fear of success. Now, this is not something that a lot of people really address. It's not something that I think a lot of people really think about. But what happens when we get glimpses of success for some of us, not for everyone, of course, there's exceptions to every rule. I know, and again, I'm speaking of my own experience. So whether you relate or not, it's left to be decided, I guess. But fear of success. So I know my own cycles, and basically what happens as soon as I start making any headway in anything, there's some sort of like subconscious psychological force that comes in and just smites me down. And it's happened time and time again throughout the course of my life. I'm not proud of it. I'm still sort of going through the process of addressing it at the moment, but it is real. It is real because what happens is, and they call it in Australia and New Zealand, tall poppy syndrome. And the idea is that if you are doing something that's different, and you're elevating yourself, I guess, above certain your friends and family and whatnot. This actually ties back to the third fear that I'm going to be talking about today as well. But it's kind of like, it's actually really freaky because there's less people up there that are doing that stuff, and you're going to be leaving your old self behind as you go with it. You're going to be growing emotionally. You're going to be growing, obviously financially if it's business related, and your knowledge and all that sort of stuff, and your life path. You're going to be growing, so it can be a little bit freaky. You sort of, I'm not going to say up there, up there by yourself alone. What I'm saying is that I think a lot of us do experience that fear of success because it's something different. It's so outside of our comfort zones. What are we going to experience when we're there? Like, what's it like? And then what? And then is there always going to be a next level to get to? And how do we define success and all that sort of stuff? So it is something that's very real. The how to not feel that's something that you have to address yourself. You have to go into your own psyche, really, your own subconscious, and start analyzing some of the things that have happened to you as you've grown up. What sort of verbal and non-verbal cues that we picked up throughout our lives, and specifically with the first sort of 5 years of our lives, 5 to 10 years, I guess, of our lives, through our parents and whatnot. What sort of messages have they sent us, and whether we fit into society's norm, so to speak. So that's definitely one. Fear of failure, which is a massive one, and it's such a fascinating topic because for me, I've been fearful of failure before, and what it tends to do for people is stop them from actually pulling the trigger and going and doing something, because they're scared about themselves, what they look like, whether they're going to be, whether it's actually going to work. I know for myself, I have an inherent bias towards failure. And what I mean by that is that I don't consciously think, oh, I'm going to go and fail at something today. Yeah. What I think is subconsciously, I think because I've had quite a few knockbacks in my time, and I'm not, I'm not saying, oh, I've had a hard luck life or anything like that. It's nothing to do with that. It's more that, some of the things that I've tried haven't quite transpired. And so I've put a lot of emotional pressure on myself about those setbacks. And so therefore, of course, it knocks your confidence around. If you try something and it doesn't feel like it works, and you keep trying, it still doesn't work, and everyone else around you seems to be doing well, then of course it implants something in your brain. You implant your subconscious thoughts with the fear of failure, and it's not healthy. Like it's the thing that what I use in order to try and get over it myself is something that I heard from I think it was what's his name, Sugar Rashad Leonard, Lewis Leonard. Oh no, I always get those two confused. Anyway, it was a UFC fighter. He's retired now. Rashad Lewis, I think. I don't recall the name, forgive me. But anyway, the quote that he once said, which I thought was really powerful, was he was chatting to Mike Tyson, of all people, and Mike's whole thing was, once you make friends with the worst case scenario, it loses its power immediately. And so if you think about that, if you're fearful of failure, let's address it. Like, what are you actually fearful of? Like, if it doesn't work, then what? Like, have you, what's the worst case scenario? Do you die, or does it put yourself under health risks, or does it put yourself under financial risks? And if the answer to those, is mainly no, that you're probably not going to die from it, then what's the worst that could happen? You get your account blocked, something doesn't work out, it's a setback. How big is your why? This is one of the things I tend to talk about a lot, is when your why, your reason for doing this is more powerful and greater than your insecurities about not doing it, about failure, about all that sort of stuff. That's what's going to push you forward. That's what's going to get you to going where you want to go, right? So you can't let it, and it's okay to take ownership of it as well. Like, if you're feeling, oh shit, I'm afraid, what if I fail? Take ownership of it. It's okay just to go, yep, actually I'm feeling fearful, and then it'll allow you to kind of pull out the holes of why you're feeling fearful. What is it that you are fearful of? Is it is it failure? Is it really failure? I mean, what happens if you fail? You goes on to this next one I'm going to cover in a moment. That's the crux of it all, if you ask me. And I'm going to get there in a moment. But what is it? And when you analyze a lot of these things, you realize they don't exist. It's all in your mind. You create your own fear. It doesn't exist. It's we all go through it. Every single human has their own hang-ups, their own anxieties, their own situational things that are happening in their life. And some of them just choose to act in spite of it anyway, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Last one, I think that's probably the biggest one, judgment. And it probably paints everything if you think about it, right? So yeah, if you judge yourself, you're going to have your own set of standards. And that's probably where a lot of that fear of failure comes from as well. If you are worried that, going back to the fear of being successful, when you elevate above people, your comfort zone, your little bubble, as I said, Australia, New Zealand, known for tall poppy syndrome, is when people, like, you're doing something well, people just inherently try and chop you down. Like, you're sticking up above the rest of the flowers. It's a poppy, by the way, if you don't know. People are going to chop you down, smite you down, and that's judgment. And so therefore, if you and I'm not saying, when I say elevate above, it's just the easiest way to describe doing something that you're passionate about and growing as a human being. I don't necessarily mean that, I've got all this money now, no, I'm better than everyone else around me. Nothing to do with that at all. It's just, I say elevate. It's just the easiest way to discuss when you kind of power up, so to speak. You grow emotionally, and you start learning about some of the inner workings of your own mind and whatnot. So fear of judgment, yeah. You're fearful that you're going to leave your bubble, and what's it like up there? You know, who's judging you? Are people down there judging you? Are people on your level judging you? Are people that are doing way more than you, are they judging you? More importantly, it's probably just that you're judging yourself. What if it works? What if it doesn't work? What if I look silly? What if I, look? What if I'm vulnerable? What if people expose me? All that stuff. It's all real, like But again, it's also very much not, because we make it up. Like we're responding to our entire life and our entire life force and everything that has happened to us and everything that we have learned and it's planted in our subconscious. We're dealing with that, and that's the judgment part. But once we move beyond that, we act in spite of it. It's usually where good things happen. And I think there's a quote along the lines of success is on the other side of fear or something like that, words to that effect. Anyway, judgment, how do you get over that? You can't. You just got to act in spite of it. You got to realize that when it comes time to die, you're the one that's going to have to die. You got to live your life the way you want to. And that's a quote some of you guys might recognize. That's actually Jimi Hendrix said that, one of his songs, were not verbatim, but around that. So you got to understand that, like, life is so freaking finite. Like, it is. It's so unbelievably finite. Like, why would we let the opinion of some dickhead stop us from going and pursuing what we want to do? Like, I would rather look silly 1,000 times over and still fail 1,000 times over than and know that some of the stuff that I say and some of the things I do are going to help someone else out. I'd rather do that 1,000 times over than not try at all. That's my thing. That's the way I kind of look at it, and the way that I get over that, because it's something that I go through all the time as well. It's not that you do it 1,000 times and then all of a sudden you're immune to it. I still get fearful in terms of jumping on camera. What if, like, I don't feel like I'm very linear in the way that I speak sometimes, so I feel like I'm jumping all over the place. I don't know if my message is, what if people don't like my message? What if they think I'm silly? What if they, Jamie hasn't trimmed his beard in months. Look at him. Look at it's crazy hair. He looks like a Neanderthal. Well, I'd look like that anyway, dumbass. Look like that without the beard. But you get my point. I still have it, but I'm also okay with that. I'm also okay with the judgment, because I've let go of a lot of the judgment that I had for myself. And I think that was one of the catalysts for me moving forward, I guess, in my business as well. So anyway, that's it. It was a well-crafted slideshow. As you can see, I put a lot of work into these things. That word took me several days to plan out. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Just going to check over back in the old StreamYards if you guys are looking at that. Now, unfortunately, I can't see if there's any comments there, so I'm going to assume that no one's looking to add their commentary to this. And if you are, then I sincerely appreciate the comments and everything as well. Hopefully, you guys got some benefit out of that. That's it for me today, folks. Really just wanted to come on here and say hello and go through a couple of things that I think we all experience. But like I say, I mean, we're all human. It's part and parcel of it to feel these emotions. But when you make that conscious choice to push yourself out there, to go beyond the fear, and you really just take ownership of the fear and go, actually, what the fuck is it? It's nothing. Like, it doesn't mean anything. Hey, what's up, person? I don't know who that is. Unfortunately, the software doesn't always speak to me. This is a comment. Nice. I like that. Cool. Anyway, that's it. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you being here, and hope you have a great day. Cheers.